and decided that there was no need to panic or be afraid of a dark hole in the ground. I was disillusioned, but still keenly interested in meeting those jinns. The idea was fascinating, and finding out where they came from and why they were there was supreme. I wanted to know why people were so afraid of them. Maybe, as a young boy, my curiosity rendered me fearless about the unknown. One day, when walking home from school, I again noticed the eerie purple pulsating light emanating from one of those holes. There were no other people around or any fellow students to be seen. I decided to try one of those openings in the ground once more. This time, my patience was rewarded. When I looked in, I noticed two large and black eyes looking directly at me. Can you imagine how I felt? At first, I could not believe what I saw, and was in awe. I was about to run away, but I heard a very gentle voice talking to me in my head, which repeatedly said, "Do not be afraid of us, little boy. We will never harm you. We will never harm you." As that beautiful voice spoke, I was calmed, my fears dispelled. Noticing this, the voice further spoke to me. "We can become friends. Would you like to come in for a while?" This, too, is so strongly etched in my mind. I remember it so vividly, even after many years. "If you like, you can come in, we can talk, and then you can go home." This made me realize that there was nothing to be frightened of, and these so-called jinns were not going to cause me any harm. Strangely, I trusted those voices. They were very friendly and sincere, not creating an impression of any negative intent on their part, but I did not desire to get home late and be chastised for doing so. The voice asked me to extend my hand into the hole where that ever-brilliant, incandescent purple light was present. Suddenly, I was inside. I did not know how. I was calm, as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. I could see the opening above me, and it felt as if I had gently glided in on a soft cushion of air. As I looked through the round opening, the sky was a clear blue, and the environment glowed in a beautiful purple light. It did not resemble an underground cavern. It was a large round room without any corners, and was filled with a large quantity of colorful equipment. The interior looked similar to an aeroplane or passenger ship. There were lots of people. Some were just like everyday people we are accustomed to seeing, and others a little different. Some were short and slender, with largish heads and large black eyes. I remember it so clearly when someone told me that if I felt uneasy, I should avoid looking at those unusual people. But they all looked familiar. They seemed unable to smile, and their mouths were tiny, yet one could hear them talk, even laugh, within one's head. They were all very friendly with each other, greeting me happily, introducing themselves as if we were brothers and sisters. They did not present any nationality or religious ideal, as I later understood when I became more mature. But even then I knew I was amongst friends. As they explained, many of them came from another life and another world. The younger ones wanted me to spend more time with them, and were keen to show me some interesting things. I was fascinated, and still in disbelief. They showed me video monitors which displayed color 3D images and explained that they were yet to be made available in our world. I had never seen anything like them before, and yet they looked so familiar. All the big screen films we have seen in the cinemas were mainly in black and white, with the exception that some were tinted orange, green, blue, and red in parts. From that moment on, I became keenly interested in creating my own shows in the garage, which was part of the backyard, showing them to friends for a fee and payment system I created. They were to pay me with soft drink bottle tops or seals. My shows comprised of rolls of comic strips cut out of newspapers through a small screen. I advised my friends that soon they were going to see images relating to the sounds they had been listening to on the radio. However, let me take you back to my newly discovered friends from different worlds, when I met them for the very first time. They showed and told me a lot of things, explaining that there were very distant dwellings outside this world of ours, and were willing to help us learn and improve. They told me that one day I would understand these things better, and they were going to meet me often later in life, and remarked that I was a very brave boy. It felt that I knew them from long time ago, but I was to remain curious for a while. Subsequently, I was to meet them further from time to time. A little later, they displayed images of the moon at a very close proximity and other worlds around our sun. It felt as if I was taken there and was stunned at how correct those images proved to be when humans landed on the moon and took astronomy-related photographs years later. Even the images of nearby galaxies and star clusters which they showed me were perfectly and wonderfully represented as I was to discover many years into the future. Admittedly, everything I was shown in that instance looked so familiar. They explained a number of issues relating to my future. You are going to be a leader and a shepherd unto others. Your world will experience much darkness, but the ending of darkness will be an exciting one. Be strong and trust yourself. There will be those who lie, telling you only to follow them. Just follow the right path. Seek happiness in others and love. Everything will be good. These words were so strongly impressed in my mind that although, as a young child, I could not understand them, in my adult years I seemed to remember exactly what I was told. As time advanced, the intensity of that purple light increased, and I found myself once again outside, looking down into the hole in the ground with its beautiful incandescent light streaming through. I heard their gentle voices repeatedly telling me that we would meet again. The images they showed me on that occasion were so strongly impressed in my mind I could not wait until I borrowed books on space and other planets. From then on, I developed a love affair with science fiction, for it made one think and be inventive. I remember how sincere those new friends were when they told me, "You do not yet know entirely who you really are," similar to many others like you. But the time will come, and you will learn more. When I was with those jinn people, I felt at home. It was as if we had known each other for eons. But thinking of my mother and brother made me realize that I had to belong here on this beautiful planet for now. For a long time, I thought that my vivid imagination had got the better of me, and gazing upon that purple light, perhaps wanting that light to be present then and there, maybe my unconscious mind had created it for me. However, I was yet to learn the truth behind it. Astounded, I walked home in haste. I would have loved to share my experience with others, but I felt extremely apprehensive, knowing I might be laughed at. Even my mother might think of me as a dreamer, taking my words as just a young boy's fantasies. I told my brother all about it, but was unsure if he was interested in my story. As time went on, I turned into my own shell, not wanting to speak to anyone anymore about my feelings, emotions, and experiences. Despite being a great dreamer, I was doing very well at school. Although what we were taught appeared simplistic, I took it all like a gameplay and enjoyed the experience. I was often told that I had a very calm personality, and many of my school friends said how much they loved to listen to me. I discovered a few unusual trends about myself since that encounter by the hole in the ground. Whenever I wanted, I was able to sit on air, especially after discovering that I could do so one morning when at the breakfast table. Certainly I was not dreaming about this, because I used to sit facing the wall, asking my brother to pull the chair away from under me. He always insisted that I would fall if he did, but soon he discovered me sitting in the air. Even my mother noticed, but I believe she thought it to be a game we boys were engaged in, and paid no heed. I'm sure that my brother also remembers. There were times when I attempted to walk on the side of the wall and stone fence around the school grounds. That stone architecture was not built at 90 degrees to the ground, but at about a 30 degrees angle, and I used to exercise along this stone fence on Sunday mornings at a very early hour. This trend lasted quite a while. Some parts of the wall were built at a reasonably normal angle, and some friends used to jump from a corner when they were running late for school. Yet it was a big distance from the top to the bottom on the other side, and initially I did not feel comfortable jumping as they did. After several attempts of practicing on my own, I was ready to show my friends that I too could jump from the top of the wall. One day, when exercising my jumps in front of the other boys, I surprised myself and them by remaining airborne a little longer than usual. When jumping, I was accelerated forward for at least a distance of several times my height, descending slowly as if gliding. I repeated the experience many times, to their amazement, but I'm still unsure about how one could jump like that. All I remember was that I was willing myself to fly. Was it all just my imagination? On the other hand, I found that by putting my hands on things, animals or people, I could make them better. I could make a variety of devices, including old radio sets, old clocks, or watches work even after they had not worked for a very long time. Discovering this ability, some neighbors used to bring their radios and old gramophones for me to repair. There were also people who sought my advice in finding solutions to their problems, and, as they claimed, my words helped them. I did not realize that this was unusual for an average child, thinking it to be normal, and that everybody was just the same. Much later, I learned that it was a rare ability, although there were many others all around the world like me, and I was not the only one. This thought made me feel more at ease. Was I still dreaming? I loved finding answers to questions for people, in particular adults, who often asked. I am not much different today. Apparently, they liked the responses provided in answer to their queries, and seemingly I was able to help them. In the neighborhood, there was a street worker with suicidal tendencies, and was greatly helped morally, and perhaps just psychologically, to overcome her fears after talking to me, the child. She often told my mother all about it. However, for some reason, our cousins insistently painted me as being brainless and incapable of learning anything. I still feel that they were influenced by my father to think that way. Our mother may have taken it as a joke, but their behavior declared otherwise. In addition, they all considered my characteristics as being just childhood fantasies. I had many friends from different places when I was a child, and some were not physically present. I cannot deny this. Obviously, my mother and a few others took that as if I was either abnormally befriended with fantasized and invisible friends, or, on advice from their religious friends, that I might be possessed by spirits. I remember being taken to soothsayers and so-called exorcists. They tried all kinds of scenarios, only to discover that I was completely normal. But they still subjected me to exorcism, where several religious persons sprinkled me with holy salt water, making the signs of the cross, uttering prayers, and asking me if I still saw the spirits. Later they spoke to my aunt and mother, saying that I looked normal, and my supposedly talking to spirits would eventually subside, or else they may need to have a few more sessions with me. I probably frustrated them due to my insistence about those conversations with invisible friends. On the other hand, those friends were very visible to me. They then decided to take me to psychologists, only to discover that I was a normal kid with a vivid imagination. I was keenly interested and became more involved as the years rolled by in science, art, history, music, and languages. I am so glad that our mother taught us to show the utmost respect to everybody, particularly our elders, teachers, and especially our cousins. She adored them above everybody else. One can say that she almost worshipped them. She must have felt really sad due to their father being murdered in a very bizarre and horrific way, thus feeling obliged to look after them. She has indeed kept a lot of things hidden from us in regard to them. There may have been other reasons which she alone knew and did not want us to worry about. I still remember my very first day at school, for it was very exciting. I clearly recall the first time when the school principal came into the classroom, telling us a few welcoming words. I remember how the teacher appointed for our class was a very happy lady, full of smiles. But I cannot forget her slightly hairy face. They explained about the times we started to assemble, when we were to have our lunch break, and when to go home. We were shown where everything else was, from the canteen to the restrooms. At this point in time, I was not too attentive about the toilets, for I was more interested in everything else, from the teachers to being taught and meeting my fellow students while making friends. Notebooks, textbooks, pens and pencils, and everything else looked so exciting. It was so new. However, needing to wear uniforms did not appeal to me, and yet our mother designed and created her own styles of attire for my brother and me. For instance, our white starched collars were not just round, straightforward ones, like everybody else. Her designs contained additional elements she was very proud of. The teachers did not object. The first day at school was very memorable and very embarrassing at the same time. I remember so clearly how my mind was trying to absorb everything, new concepts, and the disciplinary advice given to us. During this very first day, we were also told that we should not frequent the restrooms in class time, unless it was absolutely necessary. To my horror, a wretched accident happened. Luckily, I was wearing my winter trousers with tight cuffs around the ankles. What I released due to the cold, excitement I was experiencing, or just having developed soft stool, oozed down my legs, but was kept inside my trousers. It felt sticky, uncomfortable, and cold, but I could not utter a word. My eyes watered, and my cheeks were very red, while the teacher offered me a few comforting words. She suggested that I could sit at the back, away from the others. I reluctantly sat at the back. It felt just awful, wet and cold. I thought of me being awfully clumsy, and really not very intelligent, as our cousins often declared, wishing I was just like the other boys and girls. I must have softly spoken about it to my teacher, for she tried to calm me, saying that those things happened sometimes. Towards the end of those memorable school hours, she drove me home in her car and explained what had happened. My mother was surprised, but was not upset. She washed me and my trousers, and even dried them for me to wear in the morning. She was not only very philosophical about it, she was also very calm and understanding. She did not worry about my clumsiness. She obviously did not want me to have low self-esteem, but rather concentrated on the circumstances instead.